Welcome. Welcome to worship with Eliot Unitarian Chapel. I am the Reverend Barbara Gaydon, and I am honored to serve as your lead minister. If you are new to us, we are an intentional community whose shared work is to welcome everyone, all races, genders, and sexual orientations. We strive to welcome people of all creeds and beliefs, all economic circumstances, and all types of families. Our vision is to create a just world through vibrant, beloved community. If you would like to connect with us and learn more about our congregation, one of our greeters would be happy to connect with you and chat with you. If you're joining us online, please do write to us at welcome@eliotchapel.org. Now, after the service, we are going to, for this service, 9:15, we'll congregate as we usually do, chat each other up, spend some time visiting with one another. After the 11 o'clock service, we have our annual meeting, and if you can come back for that, we would love to have you. We are not going to have, just for those folks who were planning to join us on Zoom for coffee hour, we're not going to have our coffee hour by Zoom today because of the annual meeting. And just a reminder, for the time being, we're asking everybody to still stay masked while you're in the building, whether that's on Sunday morning or during the week. We want to keep each other safe. Welcome to Eliot Unitarian Chapel. Come into the circle of love and justice. Come into the community of mercy, holiness, and health. Come, and you shall know peace and joy. Our opening hymn is number 128, one of my faves, For All That Is Our Life. Your lyrics are in the back of your order of service. Please rise as you're willing and able and sing with me. Please be seated.
Good morning, all. Good to see you. Good to see you on this beautiful day, and especially welcome any new members that are with us for this service. Please join me in reciting the Congregational Covenant. Oh, I'm Barbara Harris, by the way. Another Barbara. As a free congregation, we promise to one another our mutual trust and support. To create a beloved community, we promise to be kinder to each other than we have to be, to listen fully to each other with an open mind and heart, to speak responsibly and respectfully, to find ways to improve our church for all members and friends.
And now I have the delight of doing something that we haven't done in person for quite some time, welcoming our new members for this year. I'm going to read all of the members that are listed here in your order of service. Some will be here at this service and some will be at the other service, but we want to recognize everyone. So, and could I have Yvonne Serval come up and assist me in the welcome? As I read your name, I'm going to ask you to come up, and Yvonne will hand you a gift from our church and your little script for our ceremony, and a book introducing you further to Unitarian Universalism. And if you're joining and you have children with you, please bring your children too. We want to welcome them. Holly Swift and Steve Swift, Susan Bell, Bill Anderson, Pat Reed, Mary Nisler, Jackie Landau, and Amy Carey. The members of Eliot Chapel are bound by our practice of courageous love, our work of growing in spirit, and our acts of compassion. It is my pleasure to welcome you to membership to this community. On behalf of this gathered congregation, I ask you now to confirm your commitment. And read together, if you would. And now it's the rest of our part. We'll read together. We, the members of Eliot Unitarian Chapel, welcome you as companions in our ongoing search for truth. We offer you friendship and support as together we covenant by the principle of our free faith. Thank you. Also be Sid, Addie, and Holly and Steve. Not forget the kids. Our story today comes from the Jewish tradition. It is a midrash, which is a story about a story in the Bible, or you might call it a riff on the story in the Bible. King Solomon was in a bad way. During his reign, when things would go well, he was worried all the time that it would all turn to dust in an instant. And when things were going badly, he was convinced that they would never get better. He was a wreck, I'm telling you. The original text doesn't say that. We improvise. One night he had a dream that he possessed a ring that had the power to solve all of his problems. He woke up remembering something about the ring being able to make a sad person happy and a happy person sad. He didn't know what it meant, but he dispatched his servants all throughout the land to scour the land and find this ring. He said, ask every jeweler, every artisan, if they made that special ring that could make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. And they came back, after looking throughout all the land, they came back empty-handed. And he said, tough bounce, I'm the king. Keep looking. Finally, his youngest servant went to a poor jeweler and said that he wanted to find the ring with the power to make a happy man sad and a sad man happy. And the jeweler went back into the back room. He said, I have just the thing. He went to his back room and he carved the Hebrew letters Gam Ze Ya'av, which means roughly, this too shall pass. He took the ring back to Solomon, and Solomon recognized immediately that this was it. He put it on, and he realized if you're happy, that happiness will pass. And if you're sad, that too will pass. And if you can accept that and know that, you can be happy yourself. You can have peace. And that is the end of our story. We will sing our children out now. You can go to your Sunday school classrooms. Follow you. I invite you now into a time of prayer and meditation. If you wish to, you may plant your feet flat on the floor, straighten your spine, close your eyes, and follow your breath. It's an old, familiar meditation by George Odell. We need one another when we mourn and would be comforted. We need one another when we are in trouble and afraid. We need one another when we are in despair, in temptation, and need to be recalled to our best selves again. We need one another when we would accomplish some great purpose and cannot do it alone. We need one another in the hour of success when we would look for someone to share our triumphs. We need one another in the hour of defeat, when, with encouragement, we might endure and stand again. We need one another when we have come to die and would have gentle hands prepare us for the journey. All our lives we are in need, and others are in need of us. Let us dwell together now in silent meditation and prayer. Into this shared silence, I invite you to speak the name of anyone you wish to hold up for the love and prayers of this community. These and all good souls who could not be named, we hold them in our hearts. Amen. You may stay seated if you would and sing with me our hymn, number 1011, Return Again. Every Sunday, Eliot Chapel shares half of the offering with an organization in our community that helps us live our mission in the world and shares our values. We're very pleased that May's recipient is Metropolitan Congregations United, or MCU. MCU works with faith communities to help change public policy for the common good. And Eliot has been a member of MCU for many years. We've worked with them on the school-to-prison pipeline, police violence, and voting rights, just to name a few things. They help us to fulfill our mission to meet injustice with compassion and courageous love. If you're worshiping with us in person, you can put cash or a check in the plate, text, or use the QR code in your order of service. If you're joining us online, please go to our website and go to our giving section, our giving page, and be sure to choose shared plate. Let us be good neighbors and a generous people. Will the offering please be taken? Will the greeters come forward? As the ushers come forward, would you join with me in reading our dedication of gifts? It's in your order of service. To the work of the church, weaving a tapestry of love and action, we dedicate our lives, and these are offerings. Thank you. You don't see a reading in your order of service. I'm just going to sneak one in right now. It's a poem called Now is the Time by the Sufi poet Hafiz, translated by Daniel Ladinsky. Now is the time to know that all you do is sacred. Now, why not consider a lasting truce with yourself and God? Now is the time to understand that all your ideas of right and wrong are just children's training wheels to be laid aside when you finally live with veracity and love. Hafiz is a divine envoy whom the beloved has written a holy message upon. My dear, please tell me, why do you still throw sticks at your heart and God? What is it in that sweet voice inside that incites you to fear? Now is the time for the world to know that every thought and action is sacred. Now is the time for you to deeply compute the impossibility that there is anything but grace. Now is the season to know that everything you do is sacred. So ends the reading. In the life of a church, time or chapters are often marked by the start of a new ministry. They're marked by the ministers that serve them at that time, rightly or wrongly. That's how we often tell the story. You need to put some kind of order on it, divided into chapters. You can see Eliot's chapters over there, some of them over there on that wall in the south transept. It's called a rogues gallery. I didn't make it up, but I like it. And it is what you call the row of former ministers' photographs. I had a portrait taken recently for that. When I retire in a few weeks, my portrait will be put up there with the others. So a chapter is coming to a close. But there are many photos, I would say, that capture it much better. And when you come to a time like this, you look at your old pictures. And I found one of my favorites was from our opening Sunday, September 2013, our first opening Sunday together. And it was taken from the balcony, and the sanctuary is full, but there are no chairs in there. Instead, there are about 50 or 60 of us on your feet, and all of us looking this way and doing this. You can barely see me on the chancel, which is good. I want to see more of you in the picture. And we were doing a dance called The Wobble by VIC. And we were all politely ignoring the words. Now, I have two thoughts as I look at that picture right now. First thought is, who was that girl? I preached 2 services, schmoozed with everybody at the church picnic afterwards, and then I thought it was a good idea to teach a few line dances. Geez. My second thought is, what a cool congregation. Look at all of you trying something new. Look at all of you dancing. Everybody from the youth, getting the youth to dance with us, kind of a miracle. To people in their 70s, amazing. Well, I may no longer be somebody who could do something like that on an opening Sunday and live to tell about it, but you are still a cool congregation. And that was the congregation that Eliot Chapel was in 2013 at the beginning of the chapter, and we are the congregation that is here at Eliot Chapel at the end of the chapter. And the space in between, in that space, you have grown in so many ways. A few weeks ago, one of the youth that spoke, I remember coming forward for the children's story. And there are new babies among us. And those are some of the ways that you have grown, some of the very simple ways. There are new, and you have grown in being accessible to people, to more people. Exhibit A, the ramp to your right over there. The church puzzled and puzzled over that for years, I am told, putting bigger and bigger yellow tape on the steps so that people would not trip, and we still watched it happen. And finally, our new business administrator, Camille Novak, found this movable but quite sturdy ramp as a way through. And nobody has to run and get the little board ramp and embarrass somebody for being, and make them feel like, quote, a bother. They just do it. Now, this ramp costs something, costs money, and the room is not perfect in its aesthetics. People worried you wouldn't be able to see well, or they thought it wouldn't be attractive. Now it's just become part of us, and I think we could see it as a symbol for seeing disability and honoring access to our worship space. From that point on, any changes that I've heard people talk about, we've been proposing something new, somebody will ask the question about accessibility. That, I think, is new. We are more accessible to people by developing online worship. We had to do this. We talked about it for a long time. We said, wouldn't that be nice? And then we had to do it for the pandemic. And now we're accessible in that way as well. In our time together, you grew in your relationship with the wider movement of Unitarian Universalists. It has become to matter more and more now that we are UUs and not just Eliot Chapel, cool as we are. Probably helped in these last 9 years that a beloved daughter of the church, Susan Frederick Gray, became the UUA president. We have a room named after her. We piled ourselves into trains, planes, and automobiles to go to that General Assembly and vote her into office. But we also see it in simple other ways, other different ways. We are more connected to our partner church. We've reestablished ties to Unitarians in Transylvania. We do it in a very simple thing. We light a chalice each week, and we say that we're lighting a chalice. Now, when I first got here, I was told that not to do that, not to call attention to it. It was just starting to become okay to do this very UU thing, to light the chalice. It might upset some people, so just better not mention it. It helped, I think, to have our children be the ambassadors for this change. Every week that it's been possible anyway, a little child come out from that door, wear a cute little white stole that Kate McGrath embroidered for us, and have a big brass, it used to be before we had a little candle like that, big brass lighter. And one week, one of our boys came out looking very serious, very somber expression, big lighter in front of him, very sober. And he had tied the chalice, or the stole, around his head like the Karate Kid. And I don't know if anybody even saw it. I just couldn't stop laughing. I was sitting right there. I thought, way to own your religion, kid. Let us be a lesson to us all. As I have said to you in previous weeks leading up to this, I have seen you grow in courage. You have had to face some hard things. One example, the fall of 2018, I told you that my chronic illness, pulmonary fibrosis, had progressed and I would need to wear oxygen. And you walked with me on that hard road, that scary road. Then I needed a transplant and you walked with me through that. And then I came back and I needed to work part-time and you walked with me through that. Which is, by the way, another way that you have become a more accessible church. And this ultimately is what brought Reverend Krista to work with us with a lot more responsibility and being able to share more of her gifts than a second minister has done for us in a long time. But probably one of the biggest changes, one of the biggest things that required courage was the uprising in Ferguson in 2014. I was talking to Dottie Storer the other day, and she mentioned this. She said, Ferguson changed us. When she and Dave first arrived, she said, Eliot was good at empowering individuals to go out and stand up for their values, but you could not want to take a stand on something as a church. But Ferguson happened, and we had to respond. There were classes before that intended to wake people up about racial justice, she said, and a lot of you took them. And when Michael Brown was killed, she said it brought us together. In August 2014, Ferguson became the epicenter of protest against police violence, the demand for police accountability, and the birthplace of, I believe, the greatest civil rights movement since the 1960s, Black Lives Matter. But like that earlier movement, people who lived around that time did not recognize it as such in great numbers. Most people did not recognize its leaders as heroes and wanted nothing to do with it. Eliot Chapel responded differently. Remembering Dr. King's urging from 1965 to hold 100 funerals for James Reeb, we held a funeral here for Michael Brown. We held a vigil. We stepped outside with our candles, and we stayed outside holding a vigil once a week as the grand jury deliberated and St. Louis heated up with tension and fear. And we stood together and we sat together outside with our yellow t-shirts and our banner with the church behind us as the backdrop. And we offered not just our individual voices, our individual bodies, but the body and the voice and the strength and the power of a church. That was new. Not everybody agreed with doing that, taking that action. Some difficult conversations followed. Some people did leave. But it marked a big change for Eliot Chapel. Daddy said, nobody asked permission and there wasn't a vote, we just did it. And the top goal was not to keep the peace or avoid offending or representing all points of view at all times. What we discovered was the power of making a clear moral stand as a church. And we inspired UU churches all over the country to do the same thing. And other churches in other denominations now do this, because we did. And since that time, you voted to become a sanctuary church. You have joined UU churches across the country to work on voting rights. You're working in teams to do all of this, on immigration rights, environmental justice, and if yesterday is any indication, the fight to win back reproductive freedom. You have built this up among yourselves. You have built up the capacity to respond, to show up when you are needed, to speak up when the voice needs to be louder. That is now a part of who you are. These past 2 years have taken a lot of courage from us as well. They've been hard. They've been really hard on this church. We shut our doors for gathering in person in March of 2020. We made plans, big plans, for opening in that fall, banking on a big resurgence of energy when we came back together, and then another wave hit us, and another and another. And to protect each other, we kept, and to keep the curve flatter and not overrunning our hospitals, we stayed home. We learned a whole lot about how to put Eliot Chapel online. We created worship, coffee hour, religious education for adults and children, covenant groups. And last fall, when we were starting to see greater and greater numbers of vaccination, we might have met again, but we decided not without our children in our building, and so we worshiped outside with them. We learned how to worship outdoors, and there were 11 weeks of almost uniformly glorious weather. And there were more fits and starts. We came back together from Bread Sunday through Christmas Eve, but the Omicron wave pushed us back online for a while. All the time our building had been closed. I had dreamed of celebrating our return with a big parade back into the sanctuary. Finally, at last, we're back forever and ever. And it hasn't worked that way. We want clear endings. We want things to happen with a neat finish, and they just don't. We purchased land next door, and we had this dream that right away we were going to come up with a big project and we were going to build something, and that has taken a lot longer than any of us wanted or thought about. We want a clear ending. We want the triumph of good over evil, and we're not getting that story. That's what's made the pandemic itself a hard story to tell. Our brains, they say, want to fit a story into a narrative like that, and we just can't. Many people see the pandemic as an interruption of what we think of as the real story of our lives. And if only it would just end and we could get back to the real thing. August Fletcher in the Atlantic compares this to being at a movie. He said you go to a movie, and in the middle of the movie, some man stands up with his cell phone and starts arguing really loud on his cell phone, and he won't stop. And there's no manager in sight to throw the bum out. And instead it continues. He said, if we think of the pandemic like that, like an interruption of something we need to get back from, we will keep being frustrated. At the moment, Eliot Chapel is smaller in size than we were in 2013. I prefer to think of it as we're now in concentrated form. But it is something to consider. Back in 2013, we boasted 540 adult members and about 200 children and youth enrolled in Sunday school. And now we really don't know how many members we've got for sure, but we estimate by our recent stewardship campaign and the calls that we made afterwards. If you're looking at active, engaged people who support the chapel, it's about 335 members and about 80 children and youth. Some of our longtime members, I know, feel some grief about this. And that's natural. That's normal. It's okay to feel that way. How do we look at this moment in time? What will be helpful, though? I would say that it's important to look at ourselves now with compassion. Change happens. Change happens to every living body. To be a body, to be alive, means to have some change happen to it. Changes that we don't always appreciate. Some of us look older or rounder than we were in the pictures in 2013. It's annoying. Me, I look at my feet. I look at my feet in those old pictures, and they're adorable. Okay. Bear with me here. There is a point. Right now, because of the transplant, I'm on a boatload of pills these days, and that combination makes my formerly adorable feet swell up, feet and ankles swell up, and be painful and huge like Fred Flintstone feet. And I don't like it. But I wear my compression socks so that I can put my shoes on. And I've learned to have compassion for my precious, beleaguered body that has seen a lot and is miraculously alive today. And so has Eliot Chapel. You have seen a lot, and you are alive and vibrant today. How can you look at yourselves right now? I would say with the eyes of love for all you've been through. The question you ask yourselves now will make a difference. If you ask, how quickly can we become what we used to be? You might end up with heartache and disappointment. But if you ask instead with genuine curiosity, who are we now? What can we become? I think you could be delighted and surprised. And so I think it is time to cherish who you are now. Be proud of who you are now. I am. And just think, could you be? Do you think you could be a great, cool, kick-ass church of 350 members? I do. Yeah. Practice looking at your church also with eyes more than just your own. You are recognizing a crop of new members today, people who have just found us recently, just found Unitarian Universalism. And I will tell you something that they are too polite to say. They don't care what Eliot used to be like. They don't care at all. They're here for who you are now. They want to see who you are right now. So I invite you to look with curiosity and eager anticipation for who you will become. I will be watching you. When you see my picture over there in the Rogues Gallery, it may look like my eyes are following you as you go across the room. They are. All of us are. All of us ministers who've had the great honor to love and serve you so many years. All the chapters, all the ones that you are happy about and the ones you're less happy about, all of them count. We who inhabited these chapters, we are watching you with great love and interest, and we are proud of you, and we cannot wait to see what you will do next. Amen. Well, now that you're standing already, please sing. Let's sing together, The Fire of Commitment, 128. Now may the love which overcomes all differences, which heals all wounds, which puts to flight all fears, which reconciles all who are separated, be in us and among us now and always. Amen. You may be seated. Go in peace.